All right, welcome everybody. Thanks so much for joining us. I was just explaining to everybody who's on the screen now, when it comes to this kind of thing, usually we're quite crap, but this week we have been exceptionally crap. Jen's been texting people, letting people know it's on just now. So
I put it on Facebook and I sent it to the WhatsApp group. I just realised most people on here aren't on the WhatsApp group, so yeah. We need to add you.
We need to.
So I don't have to send it 25 times. I can just send it once.
Yeah, we need to get organised. But it's been busy. So, welcome and thanks so much for joining us. Each week we have to rack our brains for a bit of a topic, and there's one that's come to us that we feel that in this present time is probably one of the most important messages that people can start to gain a respect for. And tonight we're going to be talking about freedom of mind. The freedom of mind. We're living in a time when we're given information continuously. Contradictory information, inflammatory information, scary information, exciting information. We live in an absolute time of information overload. Never before has humanity had access to this amount of information. We've got the internet, we've got news, we've got newspapers, we have friends, we have family, we just have this infinite amount of seams of books, all this information. We're absolutely drowning in information. But as some people say, we're drowning in information. But hi, Elleray. Okay, hi, Katie. Sorry, love. Hiya, Claire. Hiya, Mark. Hiya, Leia. Cool.
Sorry for the late text, everyone.
Hello, love. We're just saying. The conversation tonight's about freedom of mind, and at this time it's probably one of the most important things we can start to understand. We're just literally drowning in information. It can be really, really easy to lose sight of our sanity. It can be really, really easy for us to lose perspective on life. It can be really easy for us to take the road that's labelled fear, worry, anxiety. And this is a conversation we've been having an awful lot with people recently. You know, there's people who are looking at this the situation that the world faces at the moment, and there are many people who believe it's part of a systematic breakdown of whatever. There's people who believe there is genuinely a threat to humanity coming from viruses. All different perspectives, as people like ourselves would imagine. And I'm not separating ourselves from other people because we're all identical, but I think that everybody on this call tonight has got a respect for the fact that each and every single person lives in their own unique experience of reality, and therefore it is absolutely logical that we should be faced in this information technology era, that we should be faced with all these different perspectives. It would only be natural. Did you want to say something? Were you tapping me?
No, I didn't tap you, sorry.
Oh.
I just put my hand down.
All right, sorry, love.
And no, I was saying we've got some family members in the room who live with us. There's no more than 6, but there's people in the room as well as online tonight.
Yeah.
So we can look at everyone.
Yeah.
Oh, that's why I was tapping you.
Oh, is that what it was? Right.
Because otherwise people in the room feel ignored.
Sorry. And we have, we're speaking to a few people recently who are getting quite lost in the darkness of the situation that we're facing. And I remember speaking to one friend, and I'm going to speak about a specific friend, but I'd like not to draw attention to the conversation that we had, but I'd like to draw attention to the message. I don't really want to get caught up in the details of the conversation, but I would like to bring forward a message. This friend of mine, he rung me up and he said he was in a real stress. Dave, you know what this is all about, don't you? It's all about control. This is all about control. This is about getting our DNA. This is about getting collapsing the economy. This is about this. This is about that. This is all about the trying to control us, Dave. Now, I don't know. Personally, I don't know. I don't know what this is all about. Personally, I've heard all kinds of things. I hear the media telling me one thing. I hear experts telling me this and other people telling me that. And I don't know. But this man and I had this conversation, and he was describing how he sees this supposed pandemic. And it is all about control. One of the greatest gifts that I think anybody can find is the realization of the freedom of mind. Freedom of mind, what is freedom of mind? The freedom of mind is a fact. The mind is not a static thing. The mind itself doesn't go anywhere. You could say mind itself is static, but it's expression that we encounter on a day-to-day basis. That's not static. On a moment-to-moment basis, that's not static. The expression of mind is forever changing. Each and every single moment is a unique expression of consciousness. And within that, there is this freedom within thought, whereby situations do not create thoughts. A situation cannot create a thought for an individual. Therefore, it cannot create the experience. And thought is an unlimited free thing. It's free, it's entirely infinite. The power of thought is an infinite force that is infinite. What does infinite mean? The mind cannot get its head. We understand, I know what infinite means, but we cannot even comprehend the notion of infinity. You can't comprehend it. At some point, it becomes a finite concept. We're talking about something so vast, so unbelievably vast, so perfect, so beautiful, such a gift to the world, such a gift to humanity, such a gift to life. The freedom of mind, the ability to think anything. And me and this lad were having a conversation. He was telling me it was all about control. And I said to him, but do you see, you cannot be controlled. Nobody can control you. If I was to be somebody who was to try and gain control over people, one of the best ways that I could do it would be to scare the shit out of them, so that they would become compliant, they would listen to me. But I described a conversation that I had with I think Leah was there actually when we went to this, we went to work in a charity in Johannesburg, Redeeming Hope for the Disabled. Some of you may have come across Godel Sefu. He is a man who co-founded Redeeming Hope for the Disabled. And I remember talking to a man there. Quite often we came up, when we spoke with the black communities, we came face to face with the conversation around suppression, the white people suppressing the black people. And I'm not saying in any way that the white people have been, in the past, they've been useful to the black communities. I didn't want to get involved in that conversation. That's not a conversation for Rusty's decided he's digging his way out. He hates this conversation. Digging my way out. Little bugger. We're frozen. Right. Yeah, and I didn't want to get involved with the conversation about black versus white or anything like that. But I did want to help this man see something. And I think a few of you may have heard me mention this before, but I took this man to the wall. And I asked him to stand with his arms out and his legs spread. And I said, now I want you to imagine that I've clamped you to the wall. I put a clamp around each arm and your legs. I said, and just for good measure, I'll put one around your neck so that you can't move from the wall. You're entirely strapped. You can't move. You don't know if I'm going to come back and feed you later on tonight, tomorrow, day after tomorrow. You don't even know if I'm going to come back. But I'm going to leave you there. You are bolted to the wall. You are physically restrained. Your physical body is totally suppressed. I said, now could you please tell me? I said, whilst you're strapped to the wall, do you think that you could possibly remember, hiya Kendra, love, that you could possibly remember a beautiful time from your childhood? Would that be possible whilst you're strapped to the wall? And he said, yes. I said, okay. Do you think that whilst you were strapped to the wall, you could have a terrible memory about your childhood? He said, yes. I said, okay. Do you think that whilst you're strapped to the wall, you could worry about whether or not I'm going to come and feed you or let you go? And he said, yes. I said, do you think that within your mind, whilst you're strapped to the wall, you could find some form of optimism? Well, I suppose so, yes. I said, do you think it is remotely possible that whilst you're strapped to the wall, you could dream up poetry, invent something? Yeah, I suppose so, yes. I said, your mind's free. Your mind is free. Even with the most brutal physical oppression, your mind is always free. Now, this message is a message that we want to get out to people. In this day and age, when we're facing the situation that we're facing within this country, and other countries are facing whatever they're facing, we would like to offer people the idea that their mind is free. Now, this might seem like a, yeah, whatever, Dave, so what? So what? Well, let's break it down. Mind is the most powerful thing in the universe. Mind is the most powerful thing in the universe. Whatever living beings exist within this universe, they are conscious beings. They are mindful beings. They are beings with minds. Whether that be on our planet, whether that be on other planets. This is a thing that cannot be escaped. Every single living being, every single tree, every single plant, every single insect, every single fish, every single bacteria, every single everything is a state of being consciousness. It is a mind. It is a mind within a mind. It is an expression of a mind. Now, this is one of the things that truly changed my life when I started to truly wake up and realize this point. Mind is everything. Mind is absolutely everything. Right now, the only thing we are experiencing is mind. It is a state of consciousness. It is the life stuff of experience. It is the place where all experience is born. This is no small thing, isn't mind? It is what we call life. Our life. This life that we live in, within this life that we live in, we have the capacity to dream any kind of reality. Because reality fundamentally is a dream state. Reality fundamentally is a state of experience, and it looks as real as it does to each and every single one of us. I know my reality looks so phenomenal, it is unquestionably real. But we have to start to question.
was just going to say as well, like throughout this time, we've had so many different conversations with people kind of on one-to-ones and with family. And you see that for some people, like COVID isn't even on their mind. Like they're totally upset and obsessed and have an eating disorder. And that's all they can think about is their eating disorder. And there's other people who are so wrapped up in the climate crisis. They're like, who cares about COVID? It's the climate crisis. So you've kind of got all of this stuff going on that looks totally real to people, and it seems totally justified to feel bothered and affected and worried by it. So whether it's like, you know, definitely with the climate crisis, people are like, well, I'm justified in my worry and my concern and my anxiety, and we kind of find reasons why the feeling state we live in is justified. And it's been so interesting because so quickly with this conversation, you start to realize that as your understanding or your level of consciousness goes up and down, what you're observing appears less real, kind of from a higher level, say, and more real from a lower level. And Sid and his message, oh God, we've disappeared. The internet's got on.
Zoom's just zipped off.
You and Elise are still on. What's direct 5D HB? Do you reckon your dad's on his computer?
Just click back on.
Can still hear you.
Can you still hear us?
Why is it disappeared?
Even like
Yeah, and see you.
Yeah, I can still see you and hear you.
This is.
Yeah.
Oh, flicked it off.
computer user non-technical.
That was weird. That's never happened.
Where we at? Thanks for letting us know.
Yeah, I think so. We would
Probably
have sat
stuck
for
with-
ages. Like,
Fucking hell.
could have been very
I
amusing.
just did it anyway, Karen. Sorry.
That could have been really funny.
Lucky that wasn't being recorded. Carry on.
What was I
I
saying?
don't know.
You were saying about the people you'd spoken to, they've all the different like
Yeah.
experiences.
Yeah, just, and there has been moments in this where I'm suddenly like, oh my God, like we might not be able to travel again. And that seems like something that's really, I don't know, like my freedom's been taken away. And then suddenly my friend texted today saying that Essex is in a different level of lockdown now. And obviously my family are from there. So then I was like, what is it going to affect that? And I think the nice thing is it's not that your mind doesn't go there and you don't get caught up. And it might be sometimes that it feels overwhelming, whether it is COVID, the climate, weight. I've got a young family member at the moment who's just obsessed with what they look like and is freaking out about that not being right. The climate, COVID means nothing to them. It's like it's all about how they look. And I think it's just, I found myself being kinder to myself and then kinder to other people, like people who are freaking out about different things, and finding it really interesting to have conversations with people and see how it is that they see the world and what it is showing up for them. And I don't know, I feel like my judgment has got less and less in how people are dealing with this, and whether people are getting caught up in conspiracy or whether people are getting caught up in whatever. But there's a kindness that seems to be coming for me through this, whereas before I think I would have had a lot of judgment about people caught up in certain things. And I've put a video out, we put a video out yesterday of a lady called Kate, and she had a beautiful realization to do with her daughter, when her daughter had been refusing to go to school on and off for about 3 years, but when she saw us it'd been for about 6 months or something, and she was adamant that her daughter was going to stay in the same school, because if she saw the principals then she would be able to be in that school and be happy. And it's so cool when she now speaks about it, because there was a moment with my dad when she had a one-to-one with him, because he's an ex-head teacher, so she wanted to talk to him about it. And she went on and on and on and on, and then she said she just stopped. She said she ran out of air, and my dad said something to her that really struck her. He was like, behind all of that thinking, when that settles down, do you know what you need to do? And she just sort of said, I sat back and she realised, I've been so stubborn, I've been fighting my daughter on this, that actually that other school would make so much more sense for her in terms of what she loves to do, the kind of people that were there, the fact she already had friends there. And she let her daughter move schools, and she's thriving. And I think she started to speak to us yesterday, and I think this is a common misunderstanding within the principals, that because we're aware that our mind can change, that we should stay in a situation and wait for our mind to change. So whether it be like work, school, relationships, it's like, oh, I know my mind could change. I know I could see this differently. I know it's just thought. So then we don't move. But so often when we let all of that noise quieten down, we're moved. And it might be to move schools or change jobs, or it might be to stay and stick it out. But there isn't a judgment in that. Like, the principles aren't telling us because we know it's thought then.
No.
And I think that's something that I've heard a lot when I've been having conversations with people. They're feeling really worried and anxious about what's happening in the world, but they think, oh, I know it's just thought, so I shouldn't be feeling like this. And then there's judgment and beating themselves up because they think they know something. So I just wanted to add that in, because I think at different times, I know my mind's gone, oh my God, our freedoms could be taken away completely. What's that going to mean for our travel, our work? And it's like, and then what? And then at some point my mind changes and I settle down. But this, just knowing that the principles isn't about any type of feeling or not buying into things. We all will at some point. But it's cool because you get to keep seeing your own ego in it. And I think the other thing that Kate was speaking about in this video yesterday was you start to see more choice. Like, I've gone down that road a load of times and I know where it ends up. Is that Archie? But there is all these other roads we could go down. We can try different things. And it's so easy to forget that because there's just one road that we always go down. And she was just saying what's happened for her over the since February really, of starting to realise this, is that she sees more choices and more options. And sometimes she said it's uncomfortable to go with a different option because she's so used to doing the other. But she's allowing herself to feel uncomfortable. And then she's seeing the same for her daughter. Whereas her daughter was thinking she was failing because she still felt anxious. And it's like, oh no, you can still feel anxious, but you can still try. You can still do that. And I just think it's such a common misunderstanding in the community.
Yeah. That
somehow you're not going to have feelings anymore that are intense or scary.
I feel like if this has done one thing for me, it has allowed me to truly fully engage with life. I mean, I've told my story so many times, but the fear I used to live out of and what that fear meant and the consequences that fear came with, every single weekend I would go out and get into a fight or an argument. And, you know, stupidity like ending up in prison and drinking an awful lot and stuff like that. And I always had freedom of mind. I just didn't know it. I never knew it. When I was a kid, my mind would go from one thing to another. I'd be playing with this 1 minute, then I'd go to, you know, we say that kids have got ADHD because they can't stay focused on one thing for a moment. No, their fucking minds are free. They think differently in moment to moment. And this is something that we never lose. We just become set in our ways as we get older. In time, we get set in our ways. Our ego becomes so, what appears to be solidified in our ways, become narrow-minded. My mother once described it as narrow-minded and tunnel-visioned. Well, we think we're right. The way I see the world is right. I'm a realist. You ask anybody on earth if they believe that their reality is true, and they will say, yeah. And yet we all argue about different things. We all see different things differently. It's like, what is reality? What is it truly? What is this thing that we encounter that we call our life? And when it comes to suppression, this has to be the most important thing to wake up to. To wake up to realize that no matter what the circumstance, the circumstance cannot dictate our experience. It does not hold the power to actually create an experience for us. The experience is created within our consciousness. It's so obvious when you start to see this. This is why you could go and watch a film with your friends and one of your friends is like, that was the most amazing film. And your next friend's like, that's crap. And you're a bit like, I'm sat on the fence, I'm not too sure. Everybody is literally experiencing different. This is such an important, this isn't just a little concept. This is a fundamentally world-changing realization that takes place. Because when somebody within themselves starts to wake up to this, weirdly enough, the world changes in front of their eyes. And then they wake up and they realize that the life that they are encountering isn't dictated or created by people and circumstance and situations, but it is entirely created within their free mind. There was a paragraph I was going to read because you reminded me of something, a bit of my book I'm writing.
It's open behind.
Is it? All right, cheers, love. It's just a little paragraph in my book that I just wanted to read tonight. And it is about, you know, we come to this conversation many times, like trying to find an answer to something. Maybe it's find an answer to addiction, maybe it's find an answer to depression, anxiety, to worry, to some kind of what people would call a psychological disorder. I don't personally buy into those terms. But this little paragraph's, it's about the perfection of life. Something that can be really difficult to see in this present moment, the perfection in life. How can this be perfect, Dave? How can life be perfect? Look at the state of this world. Look at it. Look what's going on, all the corruption, all the lies, people dying, all the illness, terrified people walking around in this country. You're telling me today's perfect? Try not to look at this from the point of view of how can this make me better? What can this give me? Or what can this make me, etc. These questions are based in a search of ego. Rather, this is a conversation of one of exploration of what we are. And as we start to discover what we are, we find the infinite. In finding the infinite, we find forever permanence. This infinite forever permanence cannot be enhanced by egoic concepts, chasing stories and self-improvements, but by mental stillness, which in turn creates presence. And presence is always beautiful, and it is simply love. In love, there are no problems. Love is our essence, perfection. When we're born into this world, we get lost. We go to school and we learn things. And as we learn, we start to think we know. And as we start to think we know, here we are creating this rigidity of mind. I know that. I know this. I know that. We stop questioning it. We start to set aside that freedom of mind in exchange for knowledge, with the belief that knowledge is the thing that will either set us free or keep us safe, make us intelligent, interesting, and it's a trap. Throughout time, there have been people who've pointed to this, and Jesus Christ was one of them, a man I often quote. But I believe he had a truly beautiful message, and I'm not religious. But I think his message was beautiful. But he did say, become like the child. What is a child like? A child is a being born and exercising freedom of mind. You look at, I know we don't have kids, but we've got kids within the family, and we've seen them change over these years, going from kids who are just like in and out of all different kinds of experience to ones where they're suddenly focusing on appearance, and that's all they can see. That's all that consumes their mind, that single focused, narrow-minded, tunnel-visioned view of life. There is only one way to start to find our way out of that tunnel, and that is to start to learn about our freedom of mind and to start to exercise it. To start to exercise our capacity to think differently. It's that simple. as we learn to think differently, our reality spontaneously changes in front of our eyes as our experience of life. Reality isn't a thing, an event which we move through. Reality is an event that moves through us. It appears for all intents and purposes though we move through reality. We move through reality to get to the reality of work. We then move from the reality of work through the reality of the world to the reality of home, with the reality of the spouse, the partner, the kids, the dog, the whatever, the weather, the reality of this, the reality of the news, the reality of this. It looks like we are just consumed and bombarded by reality, and to which I remember describing it as being like almost like my personal being there was irrelevant. This reality was going to take place whether I was there or not. It was only when I woke up and actually realized that reality is actually a state of consciousness did I realize my being there and experiencing was absolutely fundamental to that reality taking place. Without my being there and my experiencing, there was no reality to be encountered. It requires consciousness for there to be an experience, for there to be awareness of reality taking place. That very awareness of reality is the reality that we encounter. That is the thing that we are. This is important. This is so important for people to wake up. This isn't just some little aspect of life. This isn't just like a little add-on. Oh, there's reality and then there's this, there's me. No, you are reality. You are the experience that you are dreaming into being as your reality is your reality. Wake up, it's a dream. Wake up, it's a dream. Wake up, it's a dream. Mystics have spoken about the dream of life. Wake up, it's a dream. What is a dream? It is an event within our mind that takes place that for all intents and purposes looks real. When Jenny and I wake up in the morning, first thing we do is we tell each other about our dreams. I had this mad dream last night. Cheated on me. I had this mad dream last night. Lisa will come up. I had this mad dream last night. Lisa has the maddest dreams. I had this mad dream last night. And we tell each other about these dreams as though, because they were so real to us. You know, quite often it's like showing somebody your holiday snaps. It's like, do you want to see my holiday snaps? They're like, no. But it was so good. It was so good. You have to see my holiday snaps. And you're like, this is boring as fuck. I don't want to look at your holiday snaps. All right, I'll entertain it. And we entertain the looking at holiday snaps. And it's so awesome to them because they were there and they experienced it. But because you weren't there, you don't get the feeling of it. It's just like, oh, that looks nice. Oh, it looks beautiful. Wow, you look great there. But what is a dream? It is an event that takes place within our consciousness. I know Jenny and I don't go to sleep and dream the same dreams each night. The same as one another. We experience different dreams. And this is, we don't have two modalities of working. It looks like we do. It looks, for all intents and purposes, like we have an awake state and a sleep state. Yes, we do. We wake up and what we call awake, which is where the senses are enlivened, and there's the time when the senses go to sleep, and we enter into this space of not being aware of an external world. But the mode of operation that we live in whilst we are asleep and dreaming is exactly the same mode of operation when we are awake. The only difference being our senses are enlivened. When we are asleep, we are a conscious thinking state, thought, dreaming realities, and we are experiencing it. And when we wake up, we're exactly the same thing. It's thought, dreaming, and the experience of whatever we're perceiving in that moment. To wake up to this is pure liberation. It doesn't make us, it isn't, like I said in that paragraph, it isn't what can this add to me? What can this add to me? You can't add anything to yourself. Anything you wish to add is a belief. We're trying to step away from that. We're trying to wake up to the notion that beliefs are the things that hold us rigid. Beliefs are the rigidity. Within the infinite is this capacity to solidify thought. What appears to be solidified, make thought rigid, which looks tangible and factual and real. So to the individual who phoned me up and said, they're trying to do this, Dave, they're trying to do that to us, his reality is so real to him that wherever he looks, he will find evidence to support that idea. He will find it because his awareness is searching for it. And it's interesting. It's like you go out for a walk with somebody who's terrified of ghosts or something, or you somebody who's big into ghosts, you take them to a house, they hear a knock at the door, it's a ghost. It's a ghost. It might have just been the wind, or a pipe knocking, or whatever, air stuck in a pipe or anything. Whatever we believe, we will find evidence for. Now, what I said to this man was, if you truly do want to rebel against your oppressor, your suppressors, the greatest rebellion that you can exercise is happiness and love. Again, something that isn't a new concept. It's not a new idea, but it's a thing that I'm really gaining a deep respect for. Fear is the thing that allows people to be controlled. Love and happiness is the thing that sets us free. The absolute opposite end of the spectrum. In happiness, in the exercising of our freeness and finding happiness, doing things that we love in life, rather than sitting around waiting for our minds to change before we do anything, just going out and living, and going out and doing the things that we truly love in life. We are adding to joy and happiness in this world. Each time an individual takes a step towards happiness, this world takes a step towards happiness. Each time an individual takes a step towards fear, the world takes a step towards fear. This man was terrified. What is he ultimately afraid of? Ultimately, he's afraid of concepts and ideas that he has heard of, because right there and then he was at his beautiful home in the Lake District countryside, surrounded by his animals and his family. He was safe, but undergoing the experience of torment, suffering, and suppression. Our mind can take us anywhere. It can create any reality. Starting to gain a respect and an understanding for the nature of it is fundamental to happiness. As we start to wake up and realize that the suffering that we are encountering in any moment, this is something that we remember. Once we've seen this, once you've seen this, you cannot unsee it. Ed, I remember you once saying to me that you had a realization, and since then your life's had its ups and downs, but I know deep down inside of you, you've seen something, and you've carried that knowledge with you throughout your ups and downs and trials of your life. You've carried that knowledge with you. And along the way, it has supported you. Just that one bit of knowledge has supported you. It hasn't meant that you haven't experienced. It hasn't meant that you haven't gone out and had a fucking full-on experience of life, and life's taken you in directions you never would have thought it would have done. But you've had a glimpse of it, and that glimpse is the thing that carries us. It's not a concept. It's not an idea. It's a fact. It's a fact that we start to wake up to within our being. It's the only fact I truly know. That this reality that I encounter as my life is a play. It's a play of something so massive, Dave isn't even it. Dave is born of it. It comes before me. I am an aspect of it. Same as everything else on this universe. We're all the same thing, playing a different game. To start to wake up to that is like, fear dies. Fundamentally in this lifetime, there is nothing to be afraid of. We don't know that. Because fundamentally, we don't know what life itself is. I often say this, but it's something to really consider. You know, when people come and do work with us, one of the first things I really like to ask them, they come with their problems, but I want to ask them a bigger question. What is this life? what is it? People describe it, oh, it's this, it's that. I'm like, no. What's the essence of it? What's its essence? What is life? What is this event that we call life? What is it? We're looking at aspects, thinking we know something about things, thinking we know things about ourselves, thinking we know things about the world and other people. But what is life? What is knowing? How do we know? How can we know? What are we? What is this world? What is nature? Where's it all born? How did it start? Did it start? How will it end? Will it end? If it ends, what does it look like after that? You see, when we start looking in that direction, we stop looking at our personal beliefs and problems. And we start to consider the notion, we focus our attention. Wherever I focus my attention, the moment I look at that, I think the word pen. Bottle, not alcoholic, by the way. Bottle. The most tasteless chocolate you've ever seen, ever tasted in your life.
Not true.
Lisa said not true. Wherever we focus our attention, our experience is born in that moment. So once we start to focus our attention on bigger questions, our mind naturally will start to ponder it. This is the beautiful gift of mind. We can ponder anything. We can ponder absolutely anything because our mind is free. Yet all we waste our time doing is pondering our little things in our lives. Our little foibles, our little problems. Now these problems, please don't think I'm not degrading them. I'm not putting I'm not trying to make anything sound small, because I know to the individual, it is their reality. It's how the world appears to them or how they appear to themselves. But when we start to ponder something greater than ourselves, our ideas, and like I said in the beginning of that paragraph, if we are not looking at this from a point of view as what can this give me, what can this make me, how can this enhance me, but start to look at it from the point of view of what are we? What is life? Starting to ask the ground zero questions as opposed to 15, 20 stories up questions. Ground zero, what is life? What is thought? What is thought? What is thought? What's this consciousness stuff that people talk about? Well, these are just words. These are just words. What is the mind? Again, just a word. It's just words. What are these words ultimately trying to describe? Because what they're trying to describe is real. And it's the creator. It's the pure essence of creator housed within every single living being. I went for a walk with our friend the other day, and she said, what you're describing, she said, it's like you're describing the Big Bang in everybody in every moment. Correct?
Who's that?
It was
Jackie.
Jackie. It was Jackie. She said, it sounds to me like what you're describing is the Big Bang taking place within everybody in every moment. Yeah, correct. The birth of the moment, the birthplace of the moment. From nowhere comes this birthplace of the moment in an inexplicable event to science. This is what life is. This is the thing we're getting tangled up in. This is the thing we're taking so seriously. This is the thing that we're bamboozled by. This is the thing we're confused by. This is the thing we suffer. The only place this is ever taking place is within ourself. Reality is an experience.
Elise, do you want to sit here so people can see you?
I'll sit next to Dave.
You sit in the middle.
I'll sit in the middle.
Hi everyone.
It's my sister.
My sister. Hey Ed. Hey guys. Oh, hi Colette. Hi, nice to see everyone.
Where's Mark at tonight, by the way, Claire?
She's buried in.
Just
He's
checking.
listening.
Hi, Mark.
Just checking.
Is it because I came on the camera? You went and sat at the dining table. Anyway, I just was going to share because Dave just wrote a little note down saying, "Is there anything you want to share?" And actually didn't think there was, but turns out there is. It's been really interesting, sort of like I would say in the past 5 years, I've had more experience, like high and low and crazy experiences than in the other 32 years of my life. And I came across the principles in 2014, and just I had a shapeshifter, you know, kind of. And since then, the being able to be in life and with all its amazingness and chaos and all the facets that make life, like Dave says, it's been really nice knowing that deep down there's that you kind of know, you get to kind of observe yourself, but even be in the mix of life. And I was just sitting there thinking, like, life is literally a continuation of experience, continuation of never ending experience. We never get to a beginning and we never get to an end. We just continue with whatever's coming in life. And in the past sort of 6 months, I would say, I really noticed how it truly is all within, but within other people. So I've had a situation in life that's been somebody who is really close to me suffering. I mean, really suffering in an absolute nightmare. And it's been so interesting listening to people's views of this person, and every single one was different. And it's been really interesting watching people say to me, you know, I just want you to be okay in life. I want you to this must be really affecting you. And I'm sitting there thinking, I'm cool. You know, I'm 1 minute I'm not, and 1 minute I am, but I'm cool with that. And there was one person recently said to me, was so sweet, bless them. They said, you know, Lisa, I really feel like this is holding you back in life, and I'm really worried for you. And I sat there and I said, that's so interesting. It's not even interesting, but that's so, bless you. I love that you care about me like that, but that really isn't how I see it. And I realized that the version of me was within her, that she had was within her. Because the reality of that was that within me, I was okay, but within her, she was suffering at the idea that I wasn't okay. And she created this person. I realized how everybody exists within us. Like my version of Dave exists within me. Jen's version of Dave exists within her. LD's version exists within him. Mum's version exists within her.
And he exists in mine too.
And we never truly know who people are. And I don't, it's just become and I've just become like the person who was the person who's really been suffering, watching all their friends, different versions of this person has just been amazing. And how we just create these ideas of who somebody is. And then that becomes our version of a person. Or our version of a situation. Like Dave says, we can look at the chocolate and not enjoy it. And it's the same with everything in life. But it's all within us. The creations are all within us.
One of the things that I love about I'm going to be careful how I word this now. The situation Lisa's talking about is horrible. It's a really horrible situation. And this person is so dear to my sister. So dear. But there's a grace and elegance which Lisa has negotiated this last 5 years. And there's one thing that you you discovered for yourself, within yourself. And it's a wholeness that could never be broken.
It's a trust. It's a total trust in. And
I often hear you say, I have faith in life.
I trust my life.
I trust my life.
I do.
Now, to be able to trust life in the darkest of times is not something that everybody on earth gets to experience. In the darkest of times, quite often people have big breakdowns. And one of the things I've seen within you, Lise, in spite of you, like we often describe this, you know, when you start to wake up to the nature of life, when you start to wake up, should you experience some form of enlightenment, this does not mean that you will not feel things. This is not an anesthetic to life. We're not talking about giving somebody an anesthetic or somebody finding an anesthetic within themselves so that they don't feel. What they will find within themselves is life, the essence of life. And in that, we truly find ourselves alive. I'm alive. We know we're alive on one level, but there is a depth to waking up and realizing you are alive on another level. And when an individual does that, this fear that wants to all consume them starts to become obvious as to the nature of it. It's an illusion. When I look at my fears personally, just to digress but briefly, when I look at my fears, they're always either based in a future, which doesn't exist. They're based in an idea which I've been told, which I believed. It's based in an idea that I've dreamt into being in my own mind. It's always based in some form of reality that is generally not the present experience, not the true presence that I'm experiencing in terms of the reality that the world is presenting in that moment. Perhaps I could be in bed worrying about a talk I've got to give. Perhaps I could be in bed worrying about somebody I know. How are they doing? What are they doing? Blah, blah, blah. But one of the things I've seen in you, Lise, is I've seen you go into fear, and within a period of time, a relatively short period of time, you've kind of come out of it and you've found your way back into sanity.
And you've normally learned something.
Yeah, and you've gained a respect and a new learning through that.
Totally. I think everything that life brings, for me, it sounds really, really weird, but I just kind of think, well, what did I learn in that? And the other night, I woke up in the night and I started crying, and it was like this cry, like I don't think you get many of them in your life, but you get that sob that comes from somewhere so deep, like all your abs contract, and it was like I was absolutely beside myself, but it was so beautiful at the same time. Just to know that that's the true nature of life. We don't need to fight any of it. We don't need to try and put a brave face on life, because we're feeling creatures. But it's nice to be able to feel. And I think, I don't know if it was you, Liam, who I was saying to you last night. I don't know if it
Brother
was
Liam.
Brother Liam. We were saying, like, about, you know, like you hear these quotes like Bruce Lee, be like water. And it's like that. We are fluid. Our experience is fluid. And it can flow in and flow out if we have an awareness that that's what's going on.
Yeah. That rigidity, that damming. When I say damming, I don't mean like damming as in you're damned. I mean like the building construction of a dam, which would stop the movement of the water. Beliefs. You know, one of the things Sid Banks used to say over and over again was, try and realize you truly know nothing. Don't just say it, but truly realize it. That, you know, that was something that I always thought, that knowledge was power. We're taught it, knowledge is power. More often than not, knowledge is a trap. That was what the story of the Garden of Eden is based on. Eve eating from the fruit of the tree of knowledge, the tree of death. The tree of knowledge and the tree of death. Two names to describe the same tree. When she consumed the tree of knowledge, the tree of death, she committed sin. What did she do? She took on knowledge, and taking on knowledge, she created ego. In creating ego, we create suffering. She fell from paradise. She fell out of paradise. This is all a metaphor for a state of mind. Heaven and hell, states of mind. Starting to wake up and starting to realize mind is free. Everybody's mind, every single person on the planet's mind is free. Doesn't matter where they are, how they're living, their mind is free. They are free to dream any reality. But you can only ever dream one at a time, one experience at a time, or you can only ever experience the moment, should I say, to be more clear. Whatever reality is presenting in that moment via mind is our reality in that moment. But once we start to find the singular birthplace, that singular, non-dualistic, singular birthplace of experience, you realize that love and fear are the same thing. That gives birth to love is the same thing that gives birth to fear. The experience of love and the experience of fear are always born from the same place. Ultimately is a neutral space that takes form as an experience, which then looks as though somehow it's flavored or contaminated with a certain type of preference, or what word would I use? Persuasion, I don't know. It gives it a character. And some of these characters we like, and some of these characters we don't like within our experience. But they're all born from the same place. Every single experience anybody has encountered in their lifetime has always been born from a space of consciousness that they are, and is it experienced from within that consciousness as a reality, as the dream state. Fear and love are the same thing. Hatred, suffering is the same thing as liberation. It's always born from the same place. It's all a state of mind. Mind, this phenomenal, inexplicable event that each and every single one of us is. The thing that you can never describe. How can you describe infinity without, you say the word infinity? Never ending. All possibility, all possibility. All possibility, the ability to dream up anything. New ideas, new inventions that haven't even been dreamt up by the rest of humanity, yet each and every single one of us has the capacity to do something, to dream up something so monumentally phenomenal.
Everything's in a state of creation all the time. Everything, like we're looking at the autumn and the leaves are falling off the trees, and we think this happens every year.
It looks like destruction.
It looks like it happens every year. But this, if you took all the time off everything, it just is a continuation of motion. Of everything, like you were saying, Dave, before. Everything is born afresh in each and every single waking, sleeping moment of life. Everything is just this continuation. Don't know where that came from. But it is though, isn't it? Everything is. And we feel like, oh, it's this again. It can never be this again.
No, you can't go. People are afraid they're going to go back. I'm afraid I'm going to go back to who I was. You can't. There is no back.
I just remembered what a total shapeshifter that I had about. I did a mountain leadership course in October last year. And I went for, one of my really good friends is in this room who we do a lot of mountain walking together. Brother. My brother, Liam, is in this room. We do a lot of mountain walking together.
I don't remember this.
And
perhaps we won't put this one out.
And there was this had to do some navigation on a really, really bad day. So I picked the day that was the wind. Well, it's the Lake District, so it wasn't too hard to choose. It was the windiest, the wettest, the wildest. the darkest day, misty on the top of the mountain. And I went up onto Bowfell and Crinkle Crags. I left home at 6 o'clock in the morning, and I got there about 10 to 7, and it was still dark. And I set off, and I got onto the top of Bowfell and Crinkle Crags, and it was wet and it was miserable, and I got lost, and I didn't really want to be there, and I was on my own, and I could hardly walk. And then I got really pissed off with myself because I had to use my mobile phone to navigate off, because I got my map out and my compass and just went blank. And I was like, come on, you need training to be a mountain leader here. You should know what you're doing. So I was like, God.
She's very good, by the way.
Anyway, got my phone out, thinking, damn this phone, Actually was really grateful for it. But got down thinking, I just can't wait to go for a coffee. Can't wait to get off this mountain. Got home, sat down and went, that was fucking brilliant. And then I caught myself and went, it was absolutely shit. But then my mind went, no, it wasn't. It was fucking brilliant. And even now I still think it was brilliant. But at the time, I was hating it. And then I thought, everything we think about, a situation or a person or whatever, is fresh in the moment. So my recollection of that day, which was horrible, was that it was fucking brilliant. So I thought, isn't it mad that we can look back on a relationship and go, oh shit, this isn't personally for me, but as a situation, we can look back on things and think they were so shit. But is that actually how it was? Or is that just what's been created in this moment of that situation? Usually the answer is yes. And in the mountain world, they call it type 2 fun. You've been up a mountain, it's been totally shit. You get back and go, it's brilliant. And then I caught it and went, oh, nothing's ever true, because we always just make it up in the moment anyway. Our life brings it to us in the moment, however it brings it to us, and that's exactly what we'll see. I like it when I've heard people say lately with the scenario that I've been around, it's like somebody once said to me, oh, they're lying. And I saw that situation as they're confused. I wasn't right, they weren't right. That was their reality, that was my reality. But it's nice to be able to know that, to be able to then sit with somebody who's feeling that way and have compassion and love for them without having to judge their opinion or change it. Maybe offer a more gentle, something that might help them see it in a better way that will make them feel better. But every single experience is literally brought to us in the moment. Even if we think we're thinking back to something, it's just fresh in the moment. And being up that mountain that day just was like a torch on it going, that's it, but that's everything. So where is the truth? It's just within the moment.
Thanks. I love the way my sister makes me sound like a Catholic schoolgirl when it comes to language.
Did I swear?
No.
Did I swear then?
Did swear?
Did I swear then?
No, not what.
I like the word fuck, it's brilliant.
It's a good word.
It's like the most universally fantastic word on the planet.
Well, your God is
My God is fuck knows.
Fuck knows everything.
Fuck knows everything.
On that bombshell, let's have a cup of tea. Should we have 10 minutes? And so should we come back at about 20 past? Does that work? Cool. Thanks, Mel. Thanks, Lise. Thanks, Cole. Right.
Hi, Lisa. Lovely to see you.
We shall pause our recording.
Does anyone have questions or comments, or was there a reason why they joined tonight, like after seeing the title? So we just wanted to make sure people had the opportunity to either share, ask questions, or say anything. Lisa?
Lise, put her hand up.
Yes. I don't even know how to do that.
I've just done it. Just to say, it's just really, really, really nice to see you. And I've missed you so much. Yeah, I've just missed you so. Yeah, it's just joyous to see you again. And yeah, that's it really.
Oh,
And,
last time I saw you was a naked bottom half of your body in the car. I've still got the photograph.
Yes, but you need to explain
No, I don't.
that one. No. Okay. Yeah, and of course it's lovely to see Rusty. I just get so stupidly excited. I'm like, oh, I said to Tilly, my foster daughter, I'm like, oh, look, and I turn the screen around and there he is. So yeah, just
Lisa.
oh, hi Rusty.
Hi, Lisa.
Oh,
I'm quite tired tonight.
yeah.
And you know, I'm bored as well. Rattling on.
Yeah, but he's like, oh Christ, same old.
Rattles on.
Why can't they talk about bones? Who are those? Lisa, are those your socks? Who are those lovely socks?
No, Mum made them.
You're kidding.
You know, she makes them.
Hi, Mum.
Hi, what are you doing?
She's
Oh,
amazing, isn't she?
okay, well, can I place an order for Christmas then?
You've been
You can get behind me, love.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah, it's lovely to see you. So,
Oh, Luke, it's so nice to see you.
are you doing any get-togethers out, out in the wild, socially distanced, like, shouting from mountaintops or anything?
I'm just trying to find out. Someone said to me the other day that there's like a bit of a loophole if it's education, and that she went to an event where there was 20 people. You didn't wear masks when you were sat down. You had to wear them if you were walking around, but because it was educational purposes, it could be more than 6. So I need to find out if we go under that category or not.
Yeah, we can all put a uniform on. It's fine.
No, it can be adult education. So
Yeah.
Yeah, you wear your school girl uniform, at least that's fine.
Anyway, on that note, I'll back to something more interesting.
Yeah, that's something that we're looking into.
Brilliant.
This is the most important thing that anybody could learn.
Yeah, I just really miss seeing you in person, yeah, everybody. Yeah, it'd be lovely.
Cool. Thanks, Luke. Thanks, love. No, Lisa came and spent an afternoon with us, and we went for a walk, and
it was like the wettest, windiest day.
It was so wet. I mean, we were like so wet, and Lisa drove home in her underwear because we were just so wet. It was ridiculous, weren't we? So, yeah, it was lovely. Thanks, Lisa.
Anybody else?
Go on, I'll just say thanks for doing group. Yeah, it's nice to be back on. It's been a while. To a new fresh set of yeah, nice one.
Oh, thanks for joining.
To see you all in this coming week.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
When we get out.
Yeah. No, thanks so much for joining us, mate. There's a lady who we've been working. There's a lady who we met out in South Africa when Jen and I did a 6-month program in Johannesburg, and this lady really woke up. She's a Jewish lady, and she really woke up to that exists within her being, and it wasn't long after that. This is what I really want to stress this point, because I cannot stress this point enough. And people, it appears to me like people don't believe us when we say this. This isn't a way of avoiding feelings or experiences. And they look at us and they go, "But Dave, you're always happy." I'm like, well, I'm not always happy. Sometimes I get totally frigging pissed off. Sometimes I'm really fed up. Sometimes just tired and grumpy and miserable bastard. But there is a freedom within it, because I know of the impermanence of the permanence of experience with the impermanence of what the experience takes flavour as. It's not something I attach myself too much to, isn't an experience anymore. So naturally, as happens in life, life happened. And for this lady, you may have come across her. She's got a daughter who has struggled with anorexia.
She shared actually on the group a few times about it.
Yeah, lady called Leanne, another lady we want to interview, because her daughter, who is 12, beautiful girl. In February she was
4 stone.
She was 4 stone, yeah. And it's been such an interesting thing. I mean, our job's very varied, insofar as it's very varied insofar as what people present. It's very singular in that we know that whatever people present, it's always born from the same place. Whether it's an eating disorder, whether it's addiction, whether it's depression, whether it's anxiety, whether it's worry, whatever it is always born within the mind. It is a thought. And so this Leanne got in touch with us and said, would we be prepared to work with Jessie? And we love this kid. We've met her before. And we said, yeah, absolutely, we would. Yeah. And Jessie has been a real lesson to us, hasn't she?
And Leanne.
And Leanne. Jessie was taken to a psychiatrist against her mother's. Her mother basically didn't want to put her into the psychiatric system because she feared that the psychiatric system would make her worse. And God bless Leanne, she has stood fast against her family, telling her that she's being irresponsible. She's not looking after her daughter properly. She had psychiatrists texting her and phoning her saying that she was being irresponsible as a mother. Her daughter should be hospitalized, put in a clinic. She's had a family telling her she's irresponsible, she's a bad mother. And all along she has stood fast as Leanne and said, no, I want her to learn about her own mind. There's been times when Leanne has collapsed. There's been times when she has rung us up in tears. There's been times when she has found it impossible, bearing in mind this was February, we were called.
And in March they went into a really strict lockdown. So it was kind of almost intensified as a family, being in lockdown and then not having any classes it took a while to go online. So it was just Jessie alone with her own mind.
Yeah.
So
and Jessie getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning to exercise before her mum got up so she could lose weight. And
every meal was a battle.
Yeah, every single meal was a battle. And so Jessie, we spoke with Jessie, and it got quite interesting for us because when we started to hear about the psychiatrist saying that, she needs to be put in hospital and stuff like that,
I think when we saw the pictures as well.
And we saw the pictures, that's right, we were like, what does Jessie need? Perhaps Jessie does need to be given some help, sustained help from people who can look after her in a place where she's safe. And we lost sight of Jessie, didn't we? For a couple of weeks.
Well, it's just a couple of days.
Yeah, so we're talking once a week. So for a couple of days we lost sight of Jessie. It was such an interesting time because when we lost sight of Jessie's health, when we spoke to her in the way that, Jessie, you might need to go into hospital. And I'm not. Please don't think this is a prescription of how to talk to anybody. This was us learning on the trot. Jessie backed off from us. She stepped back. She didn't want to listen to us anymore. She didn't want to speak to the psychiatrist. She told the psychiatrist, "I don't want to speak to you. I want to speak to Dave and Jen. I want to speak to Dave and Jen." And thankfully, this psychiatrist seems like quite a decent fella, didn't he? He said, look, this was one of the psychiatrists anyway. He said, look, so long as she's speaking to somebody, I don't mind. If she loves Dave and Jen, let her speak to them, so long as she's getting help. So with that psychiatrist kind of let her go, but other psychiatrists were texting Leanne and threatening her and saying she was going to have a kid taken off her and stuff like that. I remember after the second day, Jen and I came away from the call of speaking with Jessie and we were like, this isn't right. This doesn't feel right. We're out of place.
I think we got lost in her story.
We got lost
and
in
the
her
psychiatrist story, and
Yeah.
feeling really far away from
Yeah.
South Africa and not feeling out of our depth. I think like we can't see what's in front of us. Maybe the psychiatrists are right. And
Yeah, they get to see her right in front of us, and we just get to meet this face on a screen. And are we missing something? And I remember we came away from that and we had a conversation and we said, we're buying into this story. We're wholeheartedly stoking the fire. We're another group of people stoking the fire for Jessie. There's something wrong with you. There's something wrong with you. And I remember we rung her up that day, didn't we? And said, Jess, can we have a chat? So she came, we got on Zoom and we had this chat, and I just said, Jess, I need to apologise to you, love. I said, the way we've spoken to you the last couple of days, I said, I want to forget about that. Scrap it. We didn't mean any of that.
Can you forgive us and will you still
Can you
talk to
forgive us and will you still talk to us? And she said, she just smiled, didn't she? She was like, yeah. We got a text off Leanne probably 3 months ago saying she'd gone back to dance.
For 2 months ago.
2 months ago. So it's this, we first got the call in February. So 2 months ago, do the maths, August, we got this text off Leanne saying, Jessie's going back to dance. She's put on enough weight. I think she's ready to go back to dancing. And so she went back to dancing. And as she started to engage with the things that she enjoyed in life, you know, this corona graph that we see at the moment all the time shown, it's like there's this, that as she started to engage in the things that she enjoyed in life, her well-being rose, her happiness rose, her eating started to change. And we got a text or phone call of Leanne a couple of weeks ago saying, Jessie's hit the target weight set by the doctors and the psychiatrists. Jessie has negotiated her way out of her darkness. 12-year-old kid, from February to October, February to September, she was really struggling. And that weekend, after she hit her target weight, Jessie said, I want to go and buy all the foods that I'm afraid of. And they sat down and they ate these foods. She had bits of all this food that she was afraid of. And it was so beautiful because when we spoke to her, she said, that night I went to bed and I woke up in the middle of the night and she said, I felt so guilty for eating all this food. I felt so guilty. Oh, and she said, I was crucifying herself as she went to the toilet. And she said, oh no, what's tomorrow going to be like? What's tomorrow going to be like? And she said, and then for some reason, hey, Mr. T, she said, for some reason, you two came into my mind. I thought about Dave and Jenny, and she said, I'll see what tomorrow brings. And so she went back to bed. She fell asleep. She woke up in the morning, she said, and I was absolutely fine. One of the things that really taught us was the power of love and happiness and joy. The power. Again, going back to the situation that we face at this present moment globally, the power of love, happiness, and joy. That's an individual story about the power of love, happiness, and joy.
I think also Leanne says the power of her seeing Jessie's well-being even when Jessie couldn't see it, and then for us to then, you know, lose sight of it and then realise it and tell Jessie that we could see it even if she couldn't. So she had these people around her seeing it when she couldn't see it for herself. And I think I'd forgotten how simple the principles message really is. And I think that's the thing that changed me. Having Roger Mills look at me like I was completely perfect and whole. And he was the first psychologist or therapist, and even my parents had lost faith, looking at me like I was okay. That is the thing I think that shifted me the most. And up until that moment with Jessie, I'd forgotten that again. I've forgotten and got caught up in how to share, or I don't know, a way to share. And I'd forgotten actually, no, it's about just loving people and seeing their perfection when they can't. And that can actually be enough. You don't even have to talk about the principles.
No.
Most of the time we're just having a laugh with her and she'd tell us funny stories. Rusty would normally come on and make some inappropriate comment, and wander off again. But I think the thing, seeing Leanne, she realised what she'd realised for herself existed in her daughter, because she'd seen her wholeness and her okayness, and then she saw it in her daughter, and then she kept seeing that in her daughter when everyone else had lost faith in Jessie, and she was getting looks at the school gates from other parents and all kinds of stuff, and she was so strong to.
She was so
we're interviewing them tomorrow.
Yeah, we're going to interview
so I'll
them.
put it out on Facebook,
Yeah.
so you can watch them speak about it.
But it was just such a beautiful lesson of, you know, the healing doesn't take place in buying into the story and looking at the story. It's like the healing of the world. Buying into the story of the planet only enforces the story of the planet. It keeps a reality as an experience real in the eye of the beholder, which then in turn turns into behavior in the world. But when we start to do that we love, when we start to see wholeness, first, you know, you can't see somebody else's wholeness without first of all finding your own.
So true.
First of all, you must, this is why the Buddhists would say, if you want to change the world, change yourself. It's like you must find this within yourself. But once you've found your wholeness within yourself, once you know it's a fact, once you know that it is an absolute fact that you are nothing other than perfection playing the game of life, you see that that's what everybody is. You know, anything that is appearing imperfect is a perspective of mind. It's not a fact. This whole world sits in this state that it sits right now. It is totally and utterly impossible for it to be any other way than as it sits right now. Totally impossible for the world to be anything other than what it is right now. Given what consciousness has played out on this grand game of life, the world sits here, right now, right here, right now, as it sits. Without judgment, it is totally perfect. And when I say perfect, it's not a right thing, it's not a wrong thing, it's just what is. It's just what is. Now, whether it looks right, wrong, good, bad, is a perspective of mind. It's a thought. We must wake up and start to see how reality works. We must wake up and see that other people see the world a different way to us. That's not to start to go, oh, we all see a world in a different way. It's to start to wake up to realize that reality is an illusion. Our reality is an illusion. The way I see the world is not a fact. It's a fact that I see the world. The way I see the world is entirely a perspective born of thought, belief. We must wake up and see that within ourselves, because when we see that within ourselves, we see that fear and love are the same thing. And fundamentally, there is nothing to be afraid of in life. What is life? It's the other face of death. What is death? It's the other face of life.
But I think also with fear, there has to be other to fear. And it's almost fear only exists in misunderstanding. But love can exist just for itself, singular. So I think most religions and philosophies point us towards love because it's singular. And fear, there has to be duality. So in a way, like we're so afraid of fear, we're so afraid of those feelings, but it's this incredible wake up that we can have to how lost our minds become and bring us back. And I think I used to think that fear or anxiety meant not to do something or was giving me information about the world rather than information about my mind. So if we can start to see that fear is born from our mind and it's actually waking us up to how far from the truth we've gone, it can be one of the most useful things. Like we've got a feedback system always within us and we can learn. So it's not something that we have to fear. And someone was saying to us the other day that within Tibetan teaching, one of the things they say is face your ghosts. Because for when you face them, they disappear, they vanish. And
walk straight into them.
Yeah, walk straight. I think it was Faye maybe saying it to us. But it's as soon as we're faced with something we're afraid of, so many of us face away from it or we run from it. And I don't know, I think we misunderstand it. And I think this is about gaining awareness and understanding of what that is. And it takes us closer to a place of love or acceptance and peace, all the things that we're
ultimately striving for.
That are kind of there, stillness. When the noise, like, we always calm down. We always come back to that. But I think so much of the time when we stay stuck for a long time, it's because we're afraid and we're fearful and we don't want it and we give it attention and we think it means something. We don't just take it for the wake up that it is. Like, I know when on my first course, it being described as how helpful it is having, it's like having in your car, you've got lights that come on when there's things wrong with your car. Like, it's helpful. It's a warning sign. Say, there's something going on here. With our feelings, they are a wake up. They're waking us up. And like Kate was saying on her interview yesterday, that this understanding woke her up, and she was, where have I been living? She was saying that she just thought reality was this one thing, and she was just in it like this. And then she said suddenly she's gone, wow, reality doesn't work like that. And she saw the freedom of her mind. She saw the freedom to change her mind.
The freedom within her daughter's mind. And again, another person who brought their child to us, please help fix my child. And it was her who ultimately had the wake up and left, and she started to be a different mother. But in her seeing her children differently, in her seeing her child differently, first of all, the first thing Georgia did was up the ante. I'm really broken. But Kate's all through that. And in seeing through it, it was only a matter of time before Georgia eventually, she was a school, it was a refuser. It was only a matter of time before she went back to school, and she was going to her maths lessons that she hated. And Kate talks about a time when she took a wash bag instead of a pencil case to school, which would have been an absolute disaster in the past, but it turns out this kid just laughed at it. It's like when people start to become aware of their wholeness, then they can start to see it in other people and help the next people wake up. The perfection of everybody, every single person, and people go, oh, yeah, maybe it's I can see it. There's people, I was the same. Perhaps everybody else is all right, but perhaps I'm the except. What if I'm the exception to the rule? There is no exception to the rule. There is only that. There is only that is total perfection. Even the capacity for fear and worry and anxiety is total perfection. There are no wrong feelings, there are no wrong thoughts. There's no such thing as a wrong feeling. I was saying to a kid the other day, if, they were worried about their minds and what they think, I was like, mate, if I don't tell people my worst thoughts because I don't want to be socially isolated or struck on some kind of list or, I don't want that. But we all have fucking mad thoughts. We all have mad ideas, and we all go, oh, here we go again. And it's like, but when we start to recognize it for what it is just simply an expression of consciousness, as same as every other moment. There's nothing to be afraid of. We're not broken. Nature doesn't make broken things. Nature never makes broken things. Nature creates things that thrive in environments specific to the environment. We are absolutely meant to be here. Every single one of us is absolutely meant to be here right now on Earth. Nature does not make a mistake. We're all legitimate, fully functioning, whole people.
What about Rusty?
Rusty just tried to bite Lisa.
I don't know if he did.
Rusty just wanted to make Lisa one finger less than whole. Oh, hello, Rust.
Oh, he was so loving it for a minute.
Only for a second.
Does anybody want to say anything? Any questions? Do you want to say anything, anybody?
Had something, it flew out though. Flew in and flew out.
Liam is allowed to be here, by the way. We're stage one.
Level one.
Level one.
Tier 1.
Tier one. Thanks, LD. Get their wording right. So we're allowed up to 6 people in one house. And there's 5 of us, 6
Crap,
including
maybe
Rusty.
not- maybe it's not maybe the new one. Crap, I know. You are? Unlimited.
Come on, Auntie Lisa's been horrible to you.
What He was having a really good. He scared me. I think sometimes he's deaf and doesn't realise what's going on and goes, "What?"
You want to say anything?
He always hears you when you open the fridge door, though.
You want to say anything?
He mustn't have the vibration.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things I've loved through all the conversations we get to have with people, is that we get reminded every single day about this stuff. And that's something that Kate's pointed out to us, is that some people don't get that reminder, and how it's easy it is to take that for granted. And I don't know, I just think, just being around people. And today we saw someone and you just beamed some love at them, and it was like, I don't know, that when your focus shifts away from yourself and how you're doing and what your understanding is, and I don't know, you just seem to notice people and connect with people more. And it's not through effort or trying. I just think I didn't realise how self-obsessed I was before all of this. And I see that my suffering comes when I'm focused on myself and how I'm doing. And yeah, I've just been seeing again and again, this is so much simpler. I've been involved in the principles for over 15 years and run train the trainer programs, and I've sat in on just ridiculous amount of trainings and seen different facilitators and been part of other facilitator training programs. And I can see that the noise of knowledge, even to do with the principles, can fog your view of the simplicity of what Sid was saying. And I think being around Leanne and Kate, and it's like it takes me back to that first moment. I didn't have an intellectual knowledge, I didn't have language for what had happened, but I changed. And it's the sort of thing that used to happen around Roger Mills a lot, was people were like, I have no idea what he was talking about, but their life just changed. And he just believed in everyone. And for some people it may take a bit longer for them to realise it, but he knew it was within everyone. And I think seeing that again, it makes this even more enjoyable, and get less about you, less about your words, and more about just that recognition and the simplicity of that. And I think, I don't know, there's so many people like, oh, I was reading this book, but it wasn't 3 principles, as if it's a crime to read other books. Or I've been having healing, or
as if
I've done
3
this.
principles is ultimately a thing.
Yeah, and I know I've been one of those people in the early days of like, well, the 3 principles answers everything. Why would you need anything else? And all the judgment, but it's knowing that people can do what they like in their lives and what makes sense to them. And there isn't anything, you can't step out of the principles. The principles is describing what is. So that's what is within healing, or a book, or a religion, or whatever. Like, you can't step out of what this description is. It's like the words and the description are
Interchangeable.
But they're kind of, they're so limited in a way. But what they're describing is infinity. It's everything. So within that, we can do what makes sense to us.
And once you get an ear for it, you can hear it anywhere. We have that internal guide. And I don't know, it seems like sometimes I've taken myself on these crazy trips, but then I've learned so much from it. So I don't even see them as a mistake. Whereas I used to think, oh, if I understand enough, then I won't do those crazy trips, or I won't get lost in that. But that's perfect too. Like, there isn't any judgment in this, and that's where the freedom is. And like you often say, so many people say, oh, I want the freedom you have, but they think that freedom is always feeling happy and loving everyone. Well, that isn't freedom, and it's not true for either of us or anyone I know within the community that share this. They have all kinds of experience. I think that's fundamental. It's like, that's not the freedom. The freedom lies in freedom, like the freedom to feel anything, the freedom to fully engage with life, to fully be here on earth and engage with this life that we have been gifted, and experience it for a finite period of time before it's over. And it's like, you know, so many people only want to have that kind of spectrum of experience. It's like, all right, for how long? You know, because there will come a point where we would want to start to engage in life again and feel, go on a mad one and fully engage with. This is the universe we're talking about. It's the capacity to do anything. Why would it only want to do a certain amount of something? Why would it not want to engage with everything, all possibilities?
Free will.
It's freedom, the freedom of universal mind. The freedom of this universal mind that is so free, it dreams each and every single one of us up. And then we are it, forgetting that we are it and thinking we're ourselves, separate to one another, separate to nature, separate to the sun, separate to the planet, separate to other life on other planets. No, we're all exactly the same thing. You strip, go back to that initial question, what is life? You find the answer to that, you find the answer to everything. It's a singular event. And it's beautiful. It's magnificent, and there's nothing to be afraid of. If there was something to be afraid of, like Jenny said, there would have to be two. There's only one of it. It creates the thing that we are afraid of. It creates the being that's afraid of itself. I remember when we interviewed Godel Sefu in Johannesburg. He was trained up to be a Catholic priest, but broke his back in a football game and he fell out with God. And I remember him saying, the God that I was afraid of was within me. The thing that I was afraid of was myself. When you start to wake up to that, when you start to wake up, not I'm going to be okay when all these thoughts and feelings go. No, then I'll be okay. Right, I'll listen to what you're saying, Dave, but first of all, these need to go. No. You're 180 degrees wrong. No. Those things are coming from you. You are the creator of life. You are the creator of your universe. You're the creator of fear, the creator of love.
Well, I liked it yesterday when Kate described it as we've got like an infinite amount of coloured pens. And she said, and as kids really, we use all of them. We make all these colouring. And she said she could see with her daughter at some point, she just started using the orange pen a lot. And that orange pen was anxiety. And she said, and then when she was looking over at her daughter's drawings and seeing all this orange, she started then getting orange pen out and putting orange everywhere because she was anxious about her daughter being anxious. And she said, we forgot there's all these other pens and we focused on the orange. And she said, what happened to her?
Waiting for the orange to change colour.
Yeah, and she said, what happens to her on that 4 days with us was just, wow, like there's infinite colours in pens that I could use and that she could use. She's forgotten, then I've forgotten. And she said, I just started using different pens and creating different experiences. But it wasn't visible to her before. It's not a deliberate thing. Like Georgia didn't deliberately like get the orange pen and start doing anxiety every day. And it just, she didn't know any different. She forgot. And then just by Kate realising, Georgia, you've got all these other pens you could use. You don't realise it right now, but I can see them. She started using all these other, and she's just enjoying life now.
Yeah. And
she didn't think that was possible before because she thought that the orange pen was who she really was. So of course she's going to be anxious. She didn't realise that was just one feeling out of an infinite amount that she could have. And it's been amazing to, like, we're all learning. Like there'll be times where we sort of almost become like the teacher and then times that we're learning. And that's all of us. There aren't experts. Because I know that when we sat in those, like we've interviewed Kate twice now, and I just got to sit back. And I was saying it's so cool to be around someone when they're waking up to this. And it's like real-time examples she's giving. And I can see the simplicity and the clarity in which it's coming through her. And then at the end, she'll be like, I didn't even know that I'd seen it that way. And she was learning from her own experience as she was sharing.
That's the gift of consciousness.
Yeah.
the gift of free mind, that we can learn at any moment. We can see something different. I think that's such a relief, that our mind can change in a moment and then the world changes in front of our eyes. I'm not saying the physical world changes, but the expression of it changes. You know, if we've truly had to change the world so that we could be happy, it's a never-ending thing. It's a very time-consuming, expensive thing as well. This is one of the things we said about South Africa when we went to this soup kitchen. Our friends came out and she was crying, saying the problem in South Africa is too big. And we're like, no, it's not. It's too big if you believe you've got to change all the housing and social structure and, you know, opportunities, you know, and distribute wealth. And yeah, that looks massive. But if you look at it from ground zero, all South Africans need to do is change their minds about one another. The rest will take care of itself. It's nothing. The problem that South Africa faces ultimately is a thought.
But then at the same time, like, one of the things I realised over the last couple of weeks is we have a friend who is struggling with addiction to a substance. And I'm like, there's so many thought patterns that I'm addicted to that aren't that helpful for my life. I don't just stop doing them. I still do them. And my life would be so much easier if I just stopped doing them. But for whatever reason, I keep doing them over and over again. And I realised, like, it can be so easy to look at someone else and be like, well, just stop doing that. Well, just don't think like that anymore. And it's like, it seems so obvious when it's not the thing that looks real to you. Because the nature of this stuff is that it creates your reality. And that will look real. And I think that's the thing to remember, like, something that seems so obvious to you when you look at someone else, it won't be obvious to them yet. But the more you can see them despite that, the more likely it is that they will start to see that for themselves. And you get to have a nicer experience of them too, because you're not sat in judgment. But it can be so easy. And I think I just then felt so grateful that my kind of thought habits or whatever, thought addictions, aren't being really detrimental to my health. Like, I'm really grateful for that. But I don't know, you just realise we can say that we've seen something and then it's totally invisible to us and we're just lost in a world of it until we're not.
It's humbling.
And that's the other thing I remembered, is like, it can seem like it's everything and it's something you want to work on until it's vanished and you're in the next moment doing something else. And you realise it doesn't exist outside of the moment of thinking it. So that in itself is the kindness and the freedom in mind, is that there isn't a past or a backed up or a
Bottled up.
Yeah, bottled up. It's gone the moment your mind moves to something else. So in my mind, like, that is a kind of system or intelligence that does allow that to happen. But we get hung up on the times when we've got lost or forgotten and kind of bang ourselves over the head with judgment and shame or guilt. We don't acknowledge the moment that our minds change and we have a different experience. And I think that's what I'm starting to do more. Like, it's not that I don't get really lost and anxious or whatever it is, but the moment I come out of it, there's just this gratitude and compassion.
And then that acknowledgement, isn't there?
Yeah, and the perfection of that. Because the times where I've felt like I'm invincible, I've got really arrogant and kind of judgmental.
And then been humbled. And
then been really humbled by my own mind.
I think the beauty of having the awareness of mind is that you can.
Please come here. I don't know if people here.
A little bit here.
I don't know if it's going to come up, actually.
I think the beauty of, like, what Jen's saying about the awareness of mind and how we work, or this continuation of flow, is that you can have all that experience without getting the entanglement of it. But we have, like, say, with things like addiction or whatever, or, you know, eating disorders, again, just habitual thoughts. It's almost like Dave was saying before, it's like adding firelighters to a fire. If somebody's suffering in a certain way due to a certain, you know, energy of thought moving through, creating this experience, then somebody else tells them, oh, this is how it's always going to be and it looks like this. We've almost, like, objectified a lot of life into these patterns, but we actually work off these patterns as well. And if you bring somebody some information about their experience if they're not aware of how life is, then you can kind of go, oh, that's what it is. Pick that up as well. I'm going to put that in my cart. And we start to become heavy with ideas that our minds work on about how life should look. Or we kind of put things into categories, whereas life is just flowing. Does that make sense? Yeah. We get stuck in an experience. And we had a friend whose daughter had glandular fever, and she got really skinny, like she was down to like 5 stone, something like that, and she was about 16, about 5.5 stone, and the doctors were saying, well, I'm sorry, but your daughter's got anorexia. And our friend said, who was actually separated from his wife, he said, no, she hasn't got anorexia. And he had freedom of his mind. He'd come. He's actually a principal's facilitator, an amazing guy, and he said, no, she hasn't got anorexia or an eating disorder. She's literally had glandular fever, and she's been really poorly for about 12 months. Anyway, he had his wife, and the doctors were saying she needs to go into an eating clinic because she has anorexia. So our friend fought this till it went to court, and he lost, and she went to a anorexic eating facility. There'd never been any mention. There was never any funniness with food with her. She'd just been really, really poorly, and her body had been fighting hard. She came out of there. She got force fed and told she was anorexic, and she got delivered the program of anorexia, and she came out with full-blown anorexia. And to me, that just like opened my eyes to, you know, we have this energy creating within us, but our minds work on what also comes into our being. And this kid came out with anorexia. Now, luckily, her father is this amazing person who is a facilitator, and he managed to gently unthread everything she learned and everything she thought about herself till she saw it for herself that it wasn't true. She just had glandular fever and she'd been poorly. Mm. But I thought that was a really amazing thing about how we can buy into stories, all the people's stories, and then kind of relive them through ourselves as how it should be, how it is. That's it.
There's that. We'll call it a night, unless anybody else
Lise.
wants to say anything. See you, Lise. Loads of love, Lise. Speak to you soon.
See you, Lise.
It's that gift of.
I know. Just before you say that, we're going to be down near the New Forest, and my sister told me you'd moved there.
Oh my God.
Over to the 5th of November if you want to meet up. So
oh, we would love to. That would be so amazing. I was just thinking to myself how amazing it would be if you guys come and be here, and then I just thought, you're never going to be here, you're so far away. I'm going to have to like head up there at some point. So that is just the most amazing thing. So yeah, give me a message, let me know. I'll do that.
Thanks, Mel.
Thank you.
Loads of love. So it's like that saying, the gift of skepticism. The skeptic, you know, skeptics. Such a negative connotation with the word skeptic. Oh, they're a skeptic. But it truly is one of the greatest gifts that humanity possesses. Each of us have the capacity to be skeptical. And I remember hearing this said, it was, be skeptical of everything that you hear. Be skeptical of everything you're told. Be skeptical of everything that you read. But most of all, be skeptical of what you think. The gift of skepticism, the gift to think again, the freedom of mind, the ability to realize that our perspective of life will always be just that. It will only ever be a perspective of mind. The mind's free. We're free to think again. We're not trapped. We're free. Everybody is free all the time. They might not be physically. I've spent time in prison. They might not be physically. But psychologically, we're always free. That's where we live. that's what we are. Just knowing that changes everything, because you realize there's nothing in this world that we come up against that we cannot face. We can face anything. And helping people wake up to that is the thing that will help change the world. If the world needs changing, depending on your perspective. Oh, thank you everybody for joining us tonight.
Yeah, sorry for late notice.
Yeah, it's been the first one for a long time, hasn't it?
Mm.
Yeah. So we'll try and do another one in a couple of weeks. And
I'll put it on the website, so we have to do now.
Oh, you've done it, have you? Right, all right. Locked us in. Hey up, Mark.
Mark's sneaking in the background.
Sneaky. Right, we'll stop recording.
He's
Say
approaching.
thank you, everybody.
He's approaching.